So, how do I look? I looked up from my book, and as my head rose my mouth dropped. My fiancée, Lizzie, stood at the foot of the bed. She wore a blue pencil dress. Her light brown brunette hair flowed over her shoulders, and reached down to the middle of her back. Her long legs were slim, supple and smooth, ending in matching blue high heels. She had clasped in her hands a purse and she was gazing at me expectantly with her stunning brown eyes. "I think I want to skip this exam and go with you," I replied, feeling blessed that this perfect human had ever chosen to be with me. Lizzie giggled and kissing me. "You know you can't," she breathed, pulling her face away from me. "You fail this exam and you fail the course. You told me that yourself quite a few times." I groaned and tried to follow her, but she pushed me back down, laughing lightly. "I'll be back later, babe," she said, walking to the bedroom door. "Who knows, maybe you're the one who'll get lucky." She winked, and then left the room. I cursed, chucking my book to one side and sitting in silence. Lizzie and I had been together for nearly 6 years now, meeting at school and hooking up before continuing the relationship to university. We'd been fortunate to be accepted to the same one, so didn't have to suffer through the long-distance thing, which would have undoubtedly split us up. Lizzie was feisty, independent and very strong-willed. She knew what she wanted. She'd return back to her dorm after her studies and almost immediately text me something or enticing, causing me to over there. It was a far cry from the person she had been when we first met. Back then she was shy and reserved, extremely cute but not possessing the knowledge to show it off correctly. I'd never meant to hook up with her, but we got dancing at a house party and one thing led to another. After she doing everything she could to make sure I'd keep on relationship with her. She improved her look, learned how to apply makeup and went to the gym. I wasn't naive. I knew the changes weren't just for me and that she had cheated with other men whilst with me. More than once I'd phoned her and she'd answered out of breath, as if she'd been running, only for me to find my phone and see she was in either her dorm or some other random house. I didn't mind. First I'd been angry, but then I realized that despite the cheating, this amazing beautiful woman had chosen me to be with, share her secrets with and agree to marry. If I couldn't satisfy her completely then it was only right that she occasionally went elsewhere. I began wondering if she was going to try anything tonight. She'd gone off, and left me to it before returning an hour later happy and saying she was going to a house party that night. I pulled up the Find My Phone app, typing in Lizzie's details. Once I'd found the house she was at I got dressed into a nice shirt and jeans, slapped on some aftershave and went out. The night was cool but pleasant, the streets almost deserted. As I grew ever closer to my destination, it was clear that there was actually a house party happening. The bass could be heard from half a mile away, strobe lights danced across the sky, and numerous persons were already strewn across the front lawn in various states of drunkenness. Checking my watch, I saw that it was gone midnight, and noted with a surprise how long it had taken to walk here. Lizzie had taken a taxi and would have already been an hour and a half. As I walked up the steps to the front door, it opened and a couple exited, mid-kiss. They could barely see where they were going and they stumbled past me. I began to get nervous, knowing now that people were already hooking up. I walked past a guy smoking pot at the front door and entered. Immediately in front of me was a staircase leading up to the next floor, with archways to the left and right leading to the front rooms. They were full to the brim of people, each person only having a maximum of a few inches to themselves. Everyone had a drink and everyone was having a great time. Being just over 6'3", I cast my eye briefly over the heads of everyone I could see and didn't clock Lizzie. I knew that she could be anywhere, doing hundreds of things that were completely innocent, but something drew me to the stairs, and I convinced myself she'd be in a room with a guy. I walked upstairs and checked the found 5 doorways on the landing. The first door opened straight away and I apologized. The second door was locked, the third was the bathroom and there was a redhead in the 4th bedroom reapplying makeup. I trembled as I reached for the handle of the final door, wondering what I was about to walk into. The music was too loud to hear if anything was going on, so I took a deep breath and opened the door. No one was in there. I almost cheered in relief before closing the door and walking back round to the second room. It was definitely locked and the music once again prevented me from hearing anything when pressing my ear up to the door. If she was in there, I would never know. The redhead exited the fourth bedroom whilst I had my ear pressed up against it, and I quickly looked around for some excuse for my being there, causing her to burst out laughing. She walked over to me, put her hand round my neck and lowered my face so she could put her mouth to my ear. "So, you're either a pathetic perv, or you're looking for someone in particular," she shouted. I didn't reply straight away. I eventually explained to her who I was and who I was looking for, and I saw her eyes spark with recognition. She took my hand and led me back towards the stairs and down them. When we were halfway down them, she pointed into the left front room and shouted, "There she is." My eyes traced the line she was pointing and I found her instantly. She was in the front bay of the room, next to the window that overlooked the front garden. Just in front of the window was a plump cushioned chair, and in front of that was Lizzie. She looked beautiful, and I would have approached her straight away, except for the fact that she had her arms wrapped around the neck of another man as she swayed to the music. The man was much taller than her own 5.5 feet, and I'd wager taller than me as well. Lizzie's hand could barely reach to his neck, and it was only because of her tall heels she could manage it. His hair was short and dark. He had a short dark beard and was wearing a light brown t-shirt and jeans. They danced together like that for another minute, before Lizzie pulled his head down and kissed him on the lips. I slowly slumped down to the floor and sat on a step, unable to take my eyes off them. The redhead who'd stayed next to me patted me piteously on the shoulder before walking downstairs. I was able to see a lot from my vantage point. Like the fact that Lizzie was kissing his. I stayed there, watching my fiancée kissed another man. I barely registered anything else, like the redhead returning with a lit cigarette. She had a drag and placed it in my own mouth. I didn't care. The redhead sat beside me and watched with me as the man flipped Lizzie round so they were both looking in our direction. I looked at the redhead, dragging my eyes away from Lizzie for the first time in ages, and saw she was gazing straight at me. Moving in close she shouted, "It doesn't bother me, so shouldn't bother you. They are sexy." I couldn't help but agree, and nodded at her, tears of betrayal and shame wetting my eyes. Bang! The front door burst open and 4 cops poured into the room. Lizzie jumped up, grabbing hold of her man by the arm. The redhead and I also got to our feet and watched as the cops made directly for the sound system and unplugged it at the wall. The music instantly stopped and I heard a loud groan sweep through the house. My ears were pounding from the music, but I heard the cops shout, "Party over." I also heard the redhead whisper in my ear, "Come with me." She took me by the hand and nearly dragged me up the stairs. Whatever she had given me was clearly having an effect, as I felt punch drunk, having difficulty moving my legs or arms. She dragged me to the bedroom she'd been in when I'd first seen her and threw me on the bed. I tried to explain to her that I didn't want to do anything, but all that came out was a muffled grunt. My fears, however, were unfounded, as all the redhead did was shut the door and lock it. We stayed in the room for probably 10 minutes. We heard the cops escort everyone out of the house and then come upstairs to check on the rooms. They tried the door handle and shouted multiple times, but when they didn't hear anything from us, clearly decided the room was empty and left. By this time I had regained my speech and said to the redhead, "Why'd you put me in here? This is my room." She explained, "I share this house with a few others. One of them is Nate, the guy who's going to cheating with your girlfriend." I shook my head. "The cops got rid of everyone." "Trust me," she replied. "He will have gotten her into his room and done exactly what we've done." We waited a few more minutes, just to be sure, before the redhead, who I'd learned was called Stacy, unlocked the door. I rushed to it and pushed her aside, opening it and stepping onto the landing. My heart immediately sank. I instantly heard sighs from the second bedroom, the one that had been locked previously. Lizzie isn't a quiet girl, and I knew from experience exactly what she sounded like. I walked over to the door and saw that it had been left ajar. I saw figures moving in the crack, and that nearly caused me to walk away, but I had to see what was happening. I pushed the door open very slowly, and saw a full view. We turned on the spot so Stacy was between me and Nate's room. I opened my eyes and saw past Stacy, seeing that Nate looking to see who was partially hidden behind his door. I looked back into the room and saw Nate still watching us. He must have seen the red hair, because he grinned and did a thumbs up. This filled me with anger, and I suddenly had only one thought on my mind, to go in there and teach him a lesson. Eventually I got to my feet with Stacy, and numbly walked back to her room. This time it was I who led her into her room and shut the door, locking it behind us. My turn.